different resources for this, links or any of those types of things. So you'll get all of this in a couple of days. So going back to that, so we have our Facebook page. You can use the link below to access it, or you can just search it by Fulton County employee. We post on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, nutrition topics, fitness topics, and there's always a theme. So we try to keep you entertained. The second one is for, it's Fulco News, and it's published every Tuesday and Thursday, and you'll receive it in your Fulton County issued email. And then the last one is called Mobile Health. And I'm really happy to learn, because probably about 75% of everybody who registered for this use this, this method. And it's a really great tool. But you can either download it on your smartphone and set up your account that way, or you can use your own PC or your computer and use the Mobile Health link to get access to it, and then you'll set up your account. If you aren't familiar with it, it's a really good tool, just like you can have communication pieces, but you can learn about different challenges that we have, and you can win prizes from those challenges. There's your benefits information, any HSA stuff. So it's a really, really good tool. I highly recommend getting it if you don't have it. So I'm going to turn it over to Alexa so we can learn a little bit more about sugar. And so Alexis, I see the 3 dots.
I think I'm okay. I think I'm
okay.
Next. So I think we're all good.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so I'm going to, Jessica, you should stop sharing your screen. Is that okay? Do you?
Oh yeah, yep.
Screen? Oh, okay. Jessica, do you see my screen?
I do, yep.
Okay, awesome. All right,
Nice.
So I will go ahead and introduce myself. So thank you guys so much for joining us on a Tuesday evening. Sometimes with staying at home, I'm like, what day is it? So thank you so much for joining us and spending the next hour with us. For no thanks, I'm sweet enough. So just to tell you a little bit more about myself. So my name is Alexis Roberts, and I am the county extension agent, or one of them, in Fulton County. So you may say, what is extension? Or you may have heard of us. This is great. So extension, essentially what our job is community educators. So I'm a community educator that teaches classes in the area of nutrition, mostly food safety and food preservation. I'm also a registered dietitian. So I super love nutrition. I love talking about it. And I'm really excited that you guys are here to join us today. So this is put on in partnership with UGA Extension, Fulton County Wellness Committee, and then also the Fulton County Library Systems. All right, so today we're going to talk about, let me move this, sorry, my little window, a window for my videos like in my way. Okay, so today we're going to talk about sugar eating patterns of Americans. We're going to define added sugar. We're going to talk about identifying added sugar through a game, or like a little activity that I have that's called Show Me the Sugar. And then we're going to talk about why and how we need to cut back. Okay, so just a little bit about added sugar. So we know that most Americans eat more added sugar than what's recommended, and we'll go over kind of what is that recommended amount later. So basically, research shows us that the higher amounts of added sugar we have, the more likely we are to increase our risk of gaining weight and developing different chronic diseases. So the chronic diseases that we're at risk of developing would be high blood pressure, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease. And I found a typo in my slide. So we know that just having 1 to 2 sugary beverages a day can actually increase our risk of developing type 2 diabetes by 26% than those that don't drink sugary beverages. So you may say, oh, wow, so 1 to 2 sugary beverages. So soda and sugary beverages have a lot of sugar. They're in their name. So I went ahead and kind of measured out one, excuse the glare. So this is an example of a 20-ounce Coke. A 20-ounce Coke contains about 16 teaspoons of added sugar. So this is just by having 1 Coke a day, I would potentially, well, I would be drinking this much. And this isn't even anything else that I'm consuming. So this is just from my Coke. Okay, so when we compare ourselves to 200 years ago, so we know in general that our eating patterns have changed. So compared to 200 years ago, the average American only had about 2 pounds of sugar a year. Well, now the average American currently has 54 pounds of sugar a year. So what does 54 pounds of sugar a year look like? So you can take your sugar bag. I'm not brand endorsing. This is just what I happen to have. And that would be about 13 of these packets would be the amount of sugar that we would have in 1 year on average. And so when we say on average, that means that some people are having way more than that, right? That's just the median. So that 54 pounds of sugar breaks down to about 17 teaspoons a day. And this is what 17 teaspoons a day kind of looks like. And like we said, this is on average. Some people are having even more than this. So what is added sugar? So added sugar is considered any sugar that's added during the process or beverages of what we eat. So let's kind of break this down a little bit more. So in the chat, we have an option. I can't quite see it, but Jessica will tell me what you guys say. So I have a couple questions to help break this down. So there are some sugars that are naturally occurring, right? So what are some sugars that are naturally occurring? Like they're not necessarily added, but they're already in our foods. And you guys can use the chat function to participate if you like. So what are some sugars that are kind of naturally in our foods every day that aren't necessarily added? And if not, I can give some examples if we don't have any in the chat.
Sucralose, cereals.
Okay, so think about
fruit.
Already have, think about more natural sugars. Okay, fruit. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so fruit is one.
Oranges, yes.
Yeah. Let's see, milk is also another one. Milk contains natural sugars and things like that. So when things are honey, oh, that's a good one. We're going to talk about that later, but honey is actually an added sugar, and we're going to talk about why. So we have some natural sugars, right? So things that are in our fruit, things that are in our milk, and then we add some sugar. So what are some foods that already have sugar in them when you buy them? So someone said cereal. Cereal is another really good example of that. What are some other things, some other food products that already have sugar in them when you buy them?
Bread.
Bread, yep, right, because we know that sugar plays a part in leavening. Some juices,
juice,
on if it's 100% juice or not, 100%. Jam, yep, that's another one. Rice, oh, I guess it depends what you add to your rice, but typically when it's bagged, there shouldn't be any added sugar, unless you're doing, I'm not sure, I don't think so though, on that one. But it depends on if you're doing prepackaged and pre-seasoned, that can definitely have some added sugars in them. Some dairy products are huge, creamer, things like that. Peanut butter, yeah, awesome. Okay, so what are some examples of foods that we add sugar to ourselves? So it doesn't naturally come that way, but we kind of add our own sugar when we get it. Coffee, that's a big one. Watermelon, yeah. Tea, oh, sweet tea is huge. Frappe, yeah. Cakes, desserts, things like that. Kool-Aid, awesome, yeah. So there are different types of added sugar. Sometimes they already come in the products, and sometimes we end up adding them ourselves. Okay. So next, we're going to do a little poll. So we're going to have a little poll I'm going to launch, and I want you guys to tell me, what do you think is the main source of added sugar in the American diet? So right now, a poll should be launching. Does everyone see the poll?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. All right, so we've got about half of us have participated, getting there. A little over half now. All right, we'll do it about 5 more seconds. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So you guys got it right. Let's see. Let me share the results. Can you guys see the results?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Awesome. So it's beverages. Can anyone kind of in the chat, if you like to tell me why you think beverages are kind of one of the easiest sources of added sugar? For taste, let's see. Okay, so it's easy to get to, yeah. So it's very easy to overconsume beverages, right? It goes down really easy. They're everywhere. They also can be very affordable. People drink without eating. Canned beverages, easier available, right? Yeah, so anytime you go somewhere, someone's always offering you something to drink, right? And if it's the South, sometimes it's most likely gonna be sweet tea. And so this is a chart from American Guidelines, Dietary Guidelines. So we show that 47% of us are getting most of our added sugar every day from beverages. So that breaks down into soft drinks. We have some fruit drinks, sports drinks, and things like that. And then next, we actually have our snacks and sweets, aren't too far behind. And then after that, it's kind of just a mix of things. So most of the time, it's going to come from beverages. And then after that, our snacks and sweets. Okay, so next we're going to do the show me the sugar activity. So a lot of times we can have added sugar in our diet in places that we're not even necessarily think of. So if you happen to have a pen and paper with you, that would be great. If not, it's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on the screen an item, and I want you to guess how many teaspoons of added sugar you think is in that item. So once again, let's just go over the definition of added sugar. So there are some natural sugars and there's added sugars. So added sugars are things that we add, right? So for example, if a product is 100% juice, that most likely doesn't have any added sugar because it's 100% fruit juice. Or another example, if it's water, right? Do you think that's going to have any added sugar? If it's just water, not flavored or anything like that? No. Okay. So are you guys ready? All right. So the first thing we have is sweet tea. It's going to be a 23-ounce can. And also we have lemonade that's 12 ounces. So in the chat, you guys can put it, or you can kind of just guess to yourself. The chat would be awesome so we could see when you guys are done guessing. So you guys can just guess how many teaspoons of added sugar do you think is in the sweet tea? And then how much do you think is in the lemonade? Sweet tea, we have 34. Sweet tea, 18. Lemonade, 10. 20 tea. These are some really great guesses. Awesome. So I think someone was super close and put the nail on the head. So for the sweet tea, we have about 17.5. So a lot of times we forget how sweet tea can be. And this is canned sweet tea. So we know when people are making sweet tea at home, sometimes it can be even sweeter, right? It all depends on who's making it, right? We always know that person in our family that makes the sweetest sweet tea. And then for lemonade, this is just a 12 ounce. It's going to be about 10 teaspoons. I think someone kind of guessed that right on. So if we were kind of doing this in person, I have sugar cubes and you would kind of get to see it a little bit more. So it might be easier to guess. So once again, the same with lemonade, right? So this is just 12 ounces. So if you go to Chick-fil-A and you get the large lemonade, it's going to be more than this. Okay, so next we have 100% orange juice and low-fat milk. So how much added sugar do you guys think is in 100% orange juice and low-fat milk? Okay, we have 15, 0, 0, 15, 0. All right, so let's see, we have one more answer. A couple more answers coming in. Okay, so for you guys that guess 0, 0, you're correct, right? So if something is 100% juice, it's made out of natural sugars, right, from the orange. So that doesn't mean orange juice is awesome, have as much as you want, right? Because even though there are sugars in there and they're natural, too much of a good thing can become a bad thing. And so we don't want to have more than 8 ounces of orange juice a day. So when you're looking for your juices, make sure that it is 100% juice. Sometimes things can end up being fruit drink and we kind of don't even realize it. So like Sunny D's, I think I picked up a Simply Peach drink, and actually it was only 40% juice and a lot of it was added sugar. So the same is going to go with our milks. So milks do have natural sweeteners, but if it's just a regular milk, regardless if it's whole milk or low-fat milk, it's actually going to have the same amount of sugar, and it's going to be 0 added sugar. But I do want to show you, I don't have it on the sheet, that if this were chocolate milk, it would actually have 2.5 teaspoons of sugar. So that can be a big difference if you kind of have kids or if you drink chocolate milk, which is okay every now and then, but maybe not something that we want to have every day. Okay. So next is our frozen coffee drink and our honey barbecue sauce. So how many teaspoons do you think is in a frozen coffee drink and then our barbecue sauce? Let's see, 30 and 15 we have. Any other guesses out there? 20 and 2. Frozen coffee 7, honey sauce 2. Okay. So in our frozen coffee drink, so once again, this is a 12 ounce, so this is not the largest size. Say if you went to McDonald's or Starbucks or something like that, we have about 12.5 teaspoons of sugar in there. And then for our barbecue sauce, we actually have 3 teaspoons. And so I do want to point out that this is if you only have 2 tablespoons of barbecue sauce. So I am a sauce person. I love ketchup. I love barbecue sauce. So I know that I am not the person that's only having 2 tablespoons, right? A lot of us aren't. So a lot of times when we have those serving sizes, we tend to go a little bit over, and that we have added sugar and things that we wouldn't necessarily think about as sugary, like barbecue sauce or even ketchup. Okay. All right, so what about pancake syrup? 1/4 cup, which is the serving size traditionally for pancake syrup. And then we have a granola bar. What do you guys think? Oh no.
Pancake syrup.
So it's just pancake syrup. I realize I think I forgot one. I remember it, it's fine. Okay, any guesses out there for pancake syrup and granola? Okay, so pancake is 10, syrup 20, bar 16, 10 and 10. Okay. So for our syrup, it's gonna be 8 teaspoons. So this is if you're having 1/4 cup. And so I think once again, we all probably eat syrup and pancakes and waffles differently. So if you're one of those people that kind of douses it in syrup, or you know someone that is, sometimes we're having a little bit more than this amount. So this is for our pancake syrup. And then I realized that I forgot to make a cup for my granola, but that's okay because I know how much it is. And it's about 3 teaspoons. And so that is actually going to vary on the type of granola. And that's something that's going to be really important when you're shopping for granola. So it's recommended to try to have no more than about 9 grams of sugar from in your granola bar. To limit it, it can be very challenging depending, especially if you're buying like fresh granola. Typically it's mixed with like chocolate chips and it has like honey on it and things like that. So we can have a lot of added sugar from granola. But from that bar, it's just about 3 teaspoons. But we want to make sure that we're shopping wisely. Okay. Next is one of my favorite cereals. So of course, no brand specific, but this is plain breakfast cereal and then a kind of like a honey nut breakfast cereal. So how much added sugar do you think is in the plain kind? And then also, what about the honey nut one? Do we have any guesses on those? I'm gonna get this ready for us. Let's see, 5 and 10, 0 and 8, 0 and 2. Okay, those are pretty good. Okay, so for the honey nut, for the plain, we actually have about 0.3 teaspoons, so not very much at all. It doesn't even cover the bottom. So kind of just a little bit, not very much. But for the honey variety, we have about 1.8, so almost 2. And so this is if you're only having a cup of cereal, which most of us don't just have a cup of cereal, right? We normally end up having a little bit more. Okay. And then our last set, we have plain yogurt and then flavored yogurt. So this is our last guess. What do you guys think about our plain yogurt versus our flavored yogurt. Let's see, we have 0 and 8, 0 and 4. Okay, so our plain yogurt has 0. So great job on those guesses. So we don't have any additional sugar in our plain yogurt. Typically, it kind of has that kind of like a tart taste, and that's why. And then most flavored yogurts, we normally have at least about 6.25 teaspoons of added sugar. So that's a big amount. So even in things that are kind of healthier products, we tend to add more sugar. So when you are shopping for yogurt, it is recommended to, like that granola bar, stay within that 9 grams or under, which is actually really hard. So there's Greek yogurt, which typically has a little bit less sugar, but in a brand that I normally like, I think the average is still around 11 or more. And then their low sugar kind that's like designed to be marketed as low sugar still has like 9 grams, which is about 2 teaspoons. And that's like for my little cup. So it can definitely be challenging at times. Okay, so thank you guys so much. You did an awesome job on showing me the sugar. So was anyone surprised by any of those, or kind of it was a little bit different than you thought it was gonna be? Or kind of were some of those kind of right on point? What did you guys think? Surprised, so awesome. So one person was surprised. So like I said, when I normally do this, we have a lot more foods that we do. Surprised about the pancake syrup. That's a big one for me too. When I was a kid, I loved pancakes. Oh my gosh. So now that I'm older, I try to like make sure I'm measuring it out at least, because I know if you don't measure it out, it can just go, whoo. But yeah, and another big one, even for me, was I eat oatmeal in the morning. And so I normally kind of do like the maple syrup kind of variety, because I'm like, if I'm eating oatmeal every morning, I'm going to treat myself, right? But even that can have a lot of sugar. And so I switched to the low sugar variety, and I don't even really taste the difference. And I even saw someone put that the blend did have some sugar. And yeah, so even if we're starting at like a more plain flavor, sometimes it can have some more added, or have more added sugar than we anticipate. So added sugar essentially is in a lot of our foods, right? And so we're going to talk about why this is important. So essentially what we know is that, let me make sure I didn't skip a slide. Okay, so this is just current eating patterns. So essentially we do a really great job with our kids when they're young, right? So this is the recommended amount of added sugar. So just even by the time our kids are 1, they're over the recommended amount of added sugar. But, you know, they're kind of hovering right above it. So this is males on the left and females on the right, which is very interesting that they're a little bit different. And so as we get older, we kind of peak with our added sugar around this kind of 14 to 18. It goes down. But as you can see, at every single age group, we're over the recommended amount. And so this is really important because we know that it relates to eating patterns. So the more added sugar that we have in our diet, the more likely we are to not be consuming as much as other foods that we need to. So if we look at this chart, these are people that are kind of the population that's below or at the recommendation of limited added sugar. And these are the people that are way above. And so what we know, if you can look at the people that have the lowest amount of added sugar, they eat more fruits and vegetables, and they eat more grains, and they have more dairy. But if we go over here on the right side, when we see that people are kind of that are over the limit of added sugar, then we see that they don't consume as many vegetables, they don't consume as many fruits, they don't consume as many grains and dairies. So we know that the more added sugar we have in our diet, the least likely we are to have healthy eating patterns. And we know that a healthy eating pattern helps to decrease our risk for a lot of chronic diseases and for weight management throughout our lifetime. So this is one of the reasons it's really important that if we most likely have a diet and added sugar, then we're not really consuming those fruits and vegetables that we really need to keep us healthy. So they added sugars to the nutrition label. So this is kind of why. So we know that healthy eating patterns help to reduce our risk for chronic diseases and other illnesses. And when we consume added sugars, it becomes difficult to increase our intake of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and low-fat dairy. And so now they recommend, there's a limit of added sugar recommendation that we have less than 10% of our calories every day should come from added sugar. So what does that look like? So this is based off of a 2,000 calorie diet. So if we take 10% of 2,000 calories, that's about 200 calories. And if you do some math that involves grams and things, that comes out to about 50 grams of added sugar, which comes out to about 12.5 teaspoons, which is this amount. So for example, if I have my sweet tea, which is 17.5, I'm already over my recommended amount. Or even if I have I'm looking for my yogurt. Sorry, my table's not very big here. Okay, so even if I have my yogurt, which is 6.5 teaspoons, I'm almost at half of my recommended amount if I have that full kind of flavored yogurt. So what I want to show you guys is that it's very easy to go over that recommended amount of added sugar. But there are definitely some things that we can do to cut back. So what are some ideas that you guys have to cut back of how do we get back to this recommended amount versus the average 17, this is about 17 teaspoons that someone has a day? How do we cut down on the 17 to get closer to this around the 12.5? Starve, no! Drink water. No. That's really funny. Avoid soda. Drink half a can of soda, drink water. Use less prepackaged food that have added sugars. Yes, so an example of what you could do, so say with yogurt, I'm someone that has yogurt a lot. So once again, I try to make sure I shop for the low sugar variety. Or what I actually could do is I could buy plain yogurt and I could add a teaspoon of yogurt that self to my yogurt. And then it could be, if it's brown sugar, it has a caramelized flavor. It kind of tastes like vanilla. Or I could actually add vanilla to it. And that would actually be sweet enough for me. And I would be able to cut down on my added sugar. Or another example of my oatmeal, I said, right? I buy the maple sugar kind, but I could just add fruit. So someone has eat more fresh fruits. I could add fruit to my oatmeal and I could cut down on my added sugar there. So someone says cut back on processed foods, eat fruits and vegetables. Yeah. So honestly, a lot of what we talked about, we said 47% of people get our added sugar every day. I'll wait for that. Get our added sugar every day from beverages. So, right. So if we just cut down on our beverages, we're naturally going to be cutting down on our added sugar. So we're going to go in a little bit more detail about what is added sugar. So this is just the FDA's definition. So sugars that are added during the processing. So these include sugars that are isolated, or syrups that are isolated from a whole part of the fruit and concentrated so that sugar is the main component. So we kind of talked about, we mentioned honey a little bit earlier. So we have brown sugar, corn sweetener, corn syrup, dextrose, malt sugar. These are all different names for sugar. And so honey is included as an added sugar because it contains something called empty calories. So essentially what we know is that honey does not give us any nutrients whatsoever. So if you have an allergy, right, they say it's really good to have local honey because it can be good for your allergies. But in terms of actual nutrients, honey does not provide any. And when it breaks down in the body, it just breaks down as sugar. And so I also want to say that sugar is sugar. I taught a class last week about jams and jellies, and we were talking about sugar and adding it. And people were asking, oh, what about brown sugar? What about this type of sugar to cut back? Well, sugar is sugar, whether it's sugar in the raw or if it's brown sugar or any other type of sugar. It's sugar is sugar. It all breaks down into the body the same. Okay, so things that are not considered added sugar, naturally occurring sugar, so things like fruit or milk. So that's another option. So maybe instead of having our sugary beverages, maybe we could have a glass of milk, right? Or we could have 100% fruit juice. We don't want to have that too much, right? Even frozen juice concentrate from 100% juice, or whole pieces of fruit. So we always say that it's going to be better to eat your calories than to drink them. We'll go into that. So how can we cut back? So beware of liquid calories. So this is going to be huge. So like we said, 47% of our added sugar comes from beverages that we eat. So a big part of this can also even be things like smoothies or like juicing. So even if those do come from natural sugars, anytime that we're kind of trying to drink our calories versus eat them, we're not going to be as full. So if I'm juicing or if I'm using a drink to supplement my food, then I'm going to be hungry sooner because our bodies are used to chewing. So when I chew, that kind of shows my body like, oh, that chewing action means like, oh, I should be getting full. And our body kind of connects and our mind connects with that. So we want to make sure that we avoid our liquid calories. So the highest amount of sugar that I had on here came from our sweet tea and a soda and my 20-ounce soda. So just by cutting things like that back is a good option. So a lot of times people ask me about diet drinks. So if I did have like a diet drink here and I said, how many teaspoons of added sugar would that be? What would be the answer? 0. Yeah, that's exactly right. So diet drinks don't contain kind of what we identify as sugar, but they do have things called sweeteners. So the thing about some sweeteners is on a sweetness, so if we have sweetness on a scale, sweeteners, and we have sugar down here and we have sweeteners, sweeteners are actually sweeter than regular sugar. So when you drink them or when your body tastes them, it's sweeter. And so what happens when we have sweet things, we can actually crave more sweet things. So that's why you kind of don't, like if you're one of those people that has like a Coke or 2 Cokes a day, going to diet can be great because you are going to cut back on calories and it can reduce your risk for other chronic diseases. But you do want to be aware of that kind of like sweetness taste because sweet is an acquired taste just like salt. And so if we have a sweet tooth, we can actually kind of just start cutting back on our sweets and that can help. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to watch our portion sizes. So the same thing with the syrup, right? So say if I love syrup and I already know that with syrup, it was at least, 8 teaspoons of sugar. So if I have half a cup of syrup, which can easily happen, say maybe if I'm having like 3 or 4 pancakes or I'm having a big stack, then I can end up having 16 teaspoons of added sugar just at breakfast. And that's not even, did I have coffee? Did I sweeten my coffee? You know, what did I have later? Did I have my yogurt and things like that? So just by watching portion sizes, we can actually cut back on the added sugar that we have every day too. So the same thing goes with my honey nut sugar, right? Or my honey nut cereal. So this is just one cereal. Some cereals definitely have more. I just kind of wanted to show you the difference between the plain and the honey nut. But this is just 1 cup. Most people do not have just 1 cup of sugar. 1 cup of cereal. But if I stick with my 1 cup of cereal, then that's a way that I can make sure that I'm kind of keeping my added sugar low. And so the next option is to select low sugar options. So like we said with our flavored yogurt, it had about 16 ounces of, not 16 ounces, 16, not 16, oh my gosh, 6 teaspoons of added sugar in it. So if I switch to a lower sugar amount, I can also reduce my added sugar there. So we definitely don't have to starve, but we can just make sure that we're making healthier choices and kind of shopping around to make sure that we're doing that. And just by literally just watching our beverages, so when we think about when we go out to eat, which I know is super popular right now, when we go out to eat and we have refills on refills, right? Or if we're doing Kool-Aids or sweet tea, that's gonna be a big part of that. All right. Do we have any questions? Or does anyone else have any input after we've kind of gone over how to cut back? Does anyone else have any other suggestions? And someone said this earlier, just by kind of cooking more of our own foods and avoiding things that are packaged in a box, we can avoid a lot of things that aren't necessarily healthy for us. So do you think my message is don't ever have any cake, or to your birthday, don't have cake, or never have yogurt, or never have oatmeal? Let's see. So no, someone said no. So that's not my point. So it's everything in moderation. So it's going to be important that we eat these things, because right, we're human. Like, I love pancakes, it's my favorite food. It was just my birthday on Saturday, and I definitely had Waffle House with my syrup. But those aren't choices that I want to make every day, and that's just kind of how we want to do it, of just kind of spacing out that added sugar amount and just being aware. I think I had a couple questions in the chat. Let's see.
Someone, Grace had one about how much added sugar does 1/4 of a cup of pancake syrup have?
So it had about 8 teaspoons, which is this one. So if we want to compare that, that's actually pretty close to our yogurt, which had about 6.25. So once again, it's just being aware, and then also just portion sizes. So another thing that you could do is that you could do 100% maple syrup, and it doesn't have any added sugar. Or you could even do pancake light, or you could have less than 1/4 of a cup. You can still have syrup. And then I think I saw, is the 50 grams recommended a day just added sugar or total sugar? So the 50 grams recommended a day is just added sugar, which comes out to about 12.5 teaspoons. So once again, this isn't, you know, you can still eat a lot of foods and get this 12.5. So it's not saying you can't have any added sugar a day, because this is the this is the amount you don't want to go over. But you can still kind of eat and enjoy the foods that you like, but once again, just in moderation and just being aware. Like, a lot of kind of being health conscious is just being aware. I think someone asked about weight. So I would just say a lot of what we talk about with weight loss is just a weight imbalance. So you want to kind of make sure that you're intaking less calories than what you're using. So when we use calories, that's through exercise. So one of the ways is when you want to cut back on eating or kind of calorie washing in a healthy way. So a healthy weight loss is about 1 to 2 pounds a week. If you're losing more than that, you want to kind of see what you're doing and maybe cut back on it. Because anytime we lose a lot of weight at one time, that can be very hard to sustain. It actually is not really good for our bodies. So I'll just say this one thing. I don't know if you guys ever watched like The Biggest Loser. It was like really popular a few years ago. People would use like exorbitant amounts of weight in very small periods of time. Well, research kind of followed those people, and they found that those people really like messed up their metabolism. And so it is very, very hard for them to lose weight at this point, because the body's not meant to lose that much weight at one time. So you want to make sure that you are doing healthy weight loss through exercising and then just having healthy eating patterns. All right. So that is kind of all we had on added sugar, but we have some additional resources for you guys from the library, so please stay. And then we also wanted to take a poll to see what classes that you guys would be interested in the future. And then also, when is the best time to do these classes. So we're gonna do 2 more poll questions. So I'm gonna launch the poll. So these are some potential classes that they're trying to see if you guys are interested in. We have What's So Sweet About the New Nutrition Label. So about kind of it's happening this year, about 2 years ago, the FDA came out with a new nutrition label. So you've probably already seen it on the shelves, or you should definitely start seeing it by the end of this year. We have Science of the Senses. We'll talk about what influences our perception of food. And then also Spring Into Green Cleaning, which talks about how to make your own home green cleaning products and kind of why. So we'll take maybe about a few more seconds. So just if you haven't voted yet, just to go ahead and vote. We have about half of us has voted, a little bit more than half. All right, almost there. All right, we'll take about 5 more seconds if you're interested in voting. All right. So just to share results, it's actually pretty close on a couple topics. So kind of tied, we have What's So Sweet About the New Nutrition Label and Springing Into Green Cleaning, and not so far behind Science of the Senses. And then the best time seems to be around 6 p.m. So thank you guys so much for sharing that. So I'm going to stop sharing. So we have a few resources that are available for you guys through the library. So we have Elizabeth Puckett here, and I'm going to make you a host, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
I'm going to share with you guys some resources.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me?
Mhm.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. And we're going to start by going over a few flyers that Jessica and Alexis have. And these are just some of the resources that you could use that will pertain to our class. So Libby will have a special collection of healthy eating books. So it will be everything from kind of the science of added sugar and what your body actually does with sugar to baking with less sugar or looking into a plant-based diet, things like that. And they're all ebooks or audiobooks that you can download and kind of browse through at your leisure. In RV Digital, which is right here, it's going to be different cooking magazines. So it will be everything from Bon Appetit to different health and fitness magazines that you can check out, current issues or back issues. I have a tendency to always pick out the Bon Appetit Christmas cookie ones, which are kind of the antithesis of this class, but they exist for you. Universal classes also are online classes. You can take everything from like how to learn Excel, college courses, to health and fitness classes. So it will be things from anger management, mindfulness, healthy eating, cooking, basic fitness classes, all those kind of things. And Alexis and Jessica have these flyers for you. We also have a basic of how to use all these applications that you can use as well. And I'm going to hop around a bit. Ignore my email. And we'll go to the actual website for you. So our main website is going to be AFPLS.
Elizabeth, we can't see your website. I think you'll have to kind of reshare your screen to like the actual website screen.
Thank you. I always get overeager and assume y'all can see everything. All right, does it look like a library webpage now?
Yes.
All right. So first of all, just in case anybody needs one, you can still get a library card from us. You will just go under services and to library cards, and then fill out the online application here. Tap register at the bottom. It's going to send you a confirmation email. When you are done with that, you will forward it to me and I'll put my email in the chat box and I will give you full access. Online cards were originally kind of a stopgap so you could get your work done, then come into a branch. And since that's not going to happen in like the next week or two, I want to make sure you have full access. But overall, everything we discussed in the little flyers is going to be right over here for you. Libby and Hoopla will be ebooks. RV Digital will be all of those magazines on cooking and fitness and health. And digital library will be for universal classes. But this is the hardest one to find, so this is the last thing I will show you. And then I want to ask what the library can do for you right now. So be thinking of comments, questions, concerns, requests for the library. At the very bottom under adult learning, you'll see universal class. You can either register, or if you've taken a class with us before, just hit sign in. And to register, you'll just create an email and a number. And here are some of the classes that I'm already in. But you see the course recommendations already kind of have my focus. So you'll have everything from bread baking, Italian cooking, fitness, all kinds of things to pick from. And this is kind of the whole giant catalog. So self-help, psychology, spiritual studies. And I like universal class because it goes from the very technical to like the soft skills that aren't necessarily covered under some like Gale courses or things like that. Okay, I will stop talking now. Does anybody have any questions or comments or requests of the library that I can help y'all with? Don't be shy. And thank you so much for letting me join you all today. My email is in the chat for you. It doesn't look like I can throw the flyers into chat, but I will make sure they get to you all.
We'll include those when we send out the email with all the resources. We'll definitely include all that. And then I'll probably put your email address in there too.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for that and for those resources to the library. There's normally so many resources out there that we just don't know about. So thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Thanks. So guys, this was our first kind of, like we said, webinar with Fulton County Wellness. And so we do have an evaluation, and it would be awesome if you guys could fill it out and just tell us what you think, so we can kind of expand or improve upon our classes for you. So I'm going to put that link into the chat box. We'll also have, did you guys see that? Let's see. I see everyone. Hold on, let me redo that because I don't put that one everywhere. Okay, awesome. There we go. For you guys. So if you could fill that out. And so once again, the title of that is No Thanks, I'm Sweet Enough. And tell us what you think. Jessica, do you want to close us out?
I just want to thank everybody. Thanks to Elizabeth and Alexis for partnering up and getting this. And I was really excited because this is our first wellness webinar. And so we'll definitely, based on what we got from the survey, then we'll take that all in and we'll get some new classes scheduled or webinars scheduled.
All right, well guys, thank you so much for attending. And if we have any final questions, please go ahead and put them into the chat. And if not, hopefully we'll see you guys next time. And then don't forget to fill out that evaluation for us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. I guess I'll go ahead and close this out. And if you guys can fill out that evaluation, that would be great. All right. Have a nice night.